For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council ruled the stars with absolute authority. Civilizations rose and fell at their command. Species were catalogued, contained, or eliminated based on their decree. No world had ever defied them and survived to tell the tale. Until now, deep in the void between galaxies, where even starlight fears to venture, humanity sits in self-imposed exile. They've been watching, they've been waiting, and they've been preparing for the day the Council would finally push too far. That day has arrived. When the Council's latest compliance inspection fleet approaches the Sol System's borders, they expect to find the same docile species they catalogued centuries ago. Instead, they encounter something that will shake the very foundations of galactic civilization. A single transmission cuts through the cosmic silence, its message simple, yet terrifying in its implications. This is humanity's final warning. Turn back now, or discover why we chose exile over extinction. The choice is yours, but choose wisely. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. The Council dismissed it as the desperate bluff of a primitive species. They couldn't have been more wrong. Welcome to the story of humanity's return, and the universe that will never be the same. The bridge of the Galactic Council enforcement vessel Dominion's edge hummed with quiet efficiency as Admiral Kethvar studied the tactical display before him. 300 vessels of varying sizes spread across the hologram, like predatory fish circling their prey. Each ship represented the might of different Council member species, united under one banner of absolute authority. Status report. The Admiral commanded, his 4 arms working simultaneously across different control interfaces. His species, the Zarathi, had evolved from pack hunters, and their natural coordination made them ideal fleet commanders. All vessels report ready, Admiral, replied his tactical officer, a scaled Vorthak whose yellow eyes never left the sensor readings. The human system designated Sol 3 lies directly ahead. Long-range scans indicate minimal defensive installations. Admiral Kethvar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. After 3 millennia of Council rule, species still attempted to resist their authority. It never ended well for them. The humans would learn this lesson today, just as countless others had before them. The Sol system had been a curiosity in Council records for the past 400 years. Initial surveys had revealed a species of bipedal mammals with remarkable adaptability, but primitive technology. Standard protocol demanded immediate integration into the Council hierarchy, but something unusual had occurred. When the first diplomatic contact team arrived, they found the entire human population had simply vanished. Not destroyed, not evacuated to another world. Vanished. Every human settlement, from the smallest outpost to their largest cities, stood empty, but perfectly preserved. No signs of struggle, no bodies, no explanation. It was as if an entire species had decided to step out for lunch and never returned. The Council's investigation teams spent decades combing through abandoned human facilities. They discovered technology that shouldn't exist, mathematical theorems that challenged fundamental physics, and artistic expressions that spoke of minds capable of conceptual leaps no other species had demonstrated. Most disturbing of all were the laboratories. Clean, organized, and containing research that pushed the boundaries of what the Council considered possible. Genetic manipulation that made their own efforts look primitive. Energy systems that operated on principles they couldn't understand. Computational matrices that seemed to predict outcomes across probability ranges that defied logic. The humans had left behind a civilization that was simultaneously primitive and impossibly advanced. It made no sense. Admiral. The communications officer spoke up, her tentacled appendages dancing across her console. We're receiving a transmission from the system's edge. On screen, the main viewer flickered to life, revealing a figure that made every bridge officer tense. The human appeared unremarkable at first glance, average height, lean build, wearing simple gray clothing. But something about his eyes suggested depths that made hardened military veterans uncomfortable. I am Admiral Chun Wei of the Human Defense Coalition, the figure said, his voice carrying an odd calm that seemed to fill the bridge despite the transmission's digital nature. You are Admiral Kethvar of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. We need to talk. Kethvar's mandibles clicked in amusement. Indeed we do, human. You will surrender your vessels, and prepare for inspection. Your species' unauthorized exodus from Council oversight ends today. Admiral Chin's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Admiral, you misunderstand the situation. This is not a negotiation. This is a courtesy. My government has authorized me to issue one final warning to your fleet, and, by extension, the Galactic Council itself. Warning. Kethvar's voice rose, causing his bridge crew to shift nervously. In 3,000 years, no species had ever warned the Council. You dare threaten us? Not a threat, Admiral. A warning. There's a difference. Chun leaned forward slightly, and the lighting behind him shifted, revealing he wasn't alone. Figures in similar gray uniforms stood in perfect formation, their faces hidden in shadow. Turn your fleet around. Return to Council space. File a report stating that the Sol system remains uninhabited. Do this, and your crews will see their homes again. The tactical officer's scaled hide rippled with agitation. Admiral, sensors detect no significant defensive installations. Their largest vessels barely qualify as frigate class by our standards. Chun seemed to hear this despite the transmission being one way. Admiral, your tactical officer is correct. By traditional measurements, we pose no threat to your fleet. But traditional measurements are why your people have spent 4 centuries trying to understand what happened to humanity. Kethvar's 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. Enough games, human. You face the combined might of 17 species. Surrender now, or be destroyed. Admiral, Chun said softly. Do you know why humanity left Council space? The question caught Kethvar off guard. Standard protocol didn't prepare commanders for philosophical discussions during surrender demands. Chun continued without waiting for an answer. We left because we realized something that no other species in the galaxy has understood. The Galactic Council isn't a government. It's a cage. A very comfortable, very secure cage that keeps every member species safely contained within predictable parameters. Your point. Kethvar demanded. My point is that cages are only effective against species that accept their limitations. Chin's image shifted slightly, and the background revealed more details. The chamber he occupied was vast, filled with technology that defied easy categorization. Geometric patterns flowed across surfaces that seemed to bend light itself. Humanity chose freedom over safety. We chose the unknown over the predictable. We chose to evolve rather than stagnate. The communications officer gasped, her tentacles recoiling from her console. Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Whatever they're using for power, it's unlike anything in Council databases. Irrelevant, Kethvar snapped. Numbers matter. We have 300 vessels. They have perhaps a dozen visible ships. Visible ships, Chun repeated, and now his smile held nothing human about it. Admiral, may I share something with you? A lesson humanity learned during our exodus from Council space. Kethvar found himself leaning forward despite his intentions. We learned that every species in the galaxy has made the same fundamental error. You all assume that technology advances linearly. Better shields, faster engines, stronger weapons. But what if technology could advance exponentially? What if 400 years of unrestricted development, guided by minds freed from the fear of Council disapproval, could produce capabilities that exist outside your understanding entirely? The sensor officer, a crystalline being whose natural form served as a living computer, began emitting distressed harmonic frequencies. Admiral, the energy readings are increasing. Whatever they're powering up, it's causing our sensors to overload. Admiral Kethvar, Chin said, and his voice now carried an undertone that made the entire bridge crew step back from their stations. I'm going to give you 1 minute to issue retreat orders to your fleet. After that minute expires, you'll understand why humanity chose exile over extinction. This is ridiculous, Kethvar declared, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. We represent the combined military might of the galactic government. No single species can stand against the Council. You're right, Chin agreed. No single species can stand against the Council. But humanity isn't a single species anymore, Admiral. We haven't been for a very long time. The main viewer suddenly split into multiple screens, each showing a different angle of the Sol system. What they revealed made every bridge officer freeze in place. Ships began materializing throughout the system, not emerging from behind planets or decloaking from stealth fields, materializing. Enormous vessels that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their hulls reflecting stars that weren't visible to the naked eye. Each ship radiated energy signatures that exceeded the output of entire Council battle groups. 30 seconds, Admiral, Chin said calmly. Kethvar's tactical training warred with disbelief. The vessels appearing on his screens shouldn't exist. Their energy outputs violated known physics. Their design principles ignored every law of engineering his species had discovered. 20 seconds. The crystalline sensor officer's harmonic distress calls reached frequencies that threatened to shatter equipment. Admiral, their smallest vessel is generating power equivalent to a star. This is impossible. 10 seconds. Kethvar's hands moved toward the retreat signal almost without conscious thought. 3 millennia of Council dominance meant nothing when faced with technology that existed beyond comprehension. Admiral, his tactical officer whispered, what are your orders? Chin's image filled the entire main screen now, and, behind him, the vast chamber pulsed with energies that made space itself seem to ripple. Thumbs up, Admiral. You had your chance to choose wisdom. The transmission ended. For exactly 3 seconds, the bridge of Dominion's edge experienced perfect silence. Then, every alarm in the fleet began screaming at once. Report. Kethvar shouted over the cacophony. Unknown energy discharge detected. The sensor officer's crystalline form blazed with overloaded information. Admiral, something is happening to our ships. On the tactical display, Kethvar watched in growing horror as his fleet began to change. Not damaged, changed. Council vessels designed by dozens of different species using incompatible technologies began to shift, their hulls flowing like liquid metal, their systems integrating in ways that shouldn't be possible. They're not attacking us, the tactical officer reported, his voice filled with awe and terror. They're fixing us. Upgrading us. Admiral, our engines just increased efficiency by 300%. Our weapon systems are operating on principles I don't recognize. Our sensors can suddenly detect things that were invisible moments ago. Through the bridge's viewport, Kethvar could see his fleet transforming. 300 vessels that had entered the system as the pride of Council military engineering were becoming something entirely new. Something better. Something that no longer belonged to the civilizations that had built them. Admiral Chun. Kethvar called out, knowing somehow that the human could still hear him. What have you done to my fleet? Chin's voice filled the bridge, though no transmission appeared on any screen. I've given you a choice, Admiral. Your ships now operate using human technology. They're faster, stronger, and more capable than anything the Council has ever produced. You can return to Council space as heroes, bearing gifts that will revolutionize your civilization. Or you can continue your mission and discover what happens when humanity stops being polite. This is impossible, Kethvar whispered. No species can simply upgrade another's technology remotely. The incompatibilities alone would. Admiral, Chin interrupted gently. You're still thinking inside the cage. Humanity learned to ignore incompatibilities. We learned to make the impossible routine. We learned to rewrite the rules instead of following them. The tactical display now showed something that made Kethvar's primary heart skip several beats. His fleet, still in perfect formation, was beginning to move toward the inner system. Not under his command. Not under any command he had issued. Your ships are now hybrid technology, Chin explained. Part Council engineering, part human innovation. They respond to your commands, but they also respond to ours. Think of it as a demonstration of good faith. We're not taking your fleet away from you. We're showing you what becomes possible when you stop limiting yourself. Admiral, the communications officer called out, her tentacles trembling as she worked her transformed console. I'm receiving transmissions from throughout the fleet. Every ship reports the same thing. Their technology has been enhanced, integrated. The crew members describe capabilities they didn't have minutes ago. Kethvar forced himself to focus on command decisions rather than the impossibility of his situation. Options. Sir, the tactical officer replied. With our new capabilities, we could probably defeat any force the Council could assemble. These upgrades aren't just improvements. They're revolutionary advances. But at what cost? Kethvar demanded. What do the humans want in exchange? Chin's voice answered immediately. We want you to go home, Admiral. Return to Council space. Show them what you've learned. Explain that humanity isn't hiding from the galaxy. We're giving the galaxy time to evolve. And if we refuse? The silence stretched long enough for Kethvar to realize he didn't want to know the answer to that question. Finally, Chin responded. Admiral, you've seen what we can do to help you. Do you really want to discover what we can do to stop you? As if to emphasize the point, the tactical display updated with new information. Ships throughout the Sol system began moving in formation patterns that no Council military academy had ever taught. Their movements suggested coordination beyond anything Kethvar had witnessed, as if each vessel was part of a single, vast organism. We'll return to Council space, Kethvar announced, the words leaving his mouth before he fully realized he had made the decision. Excellent choice, Admiral, Chin replied, and warmth returned to his voice. Please understand, this isn't surrender. This is graduation. Your species, all Council species, have the potential to grow beyond their current limitations. Humanity simply chose to start that growth 400 years ago. The main viewer activated once more, showing Chin's face with perfect clarity. Behind him, the mysterious chamber had transformed into something resembling an observation deck, with massive windows revealing space that contained more stars than should be possible. Admiral, before you leave, I want to show you something. A gift, if you will. The view shifted, focusing beyond Chun toward the windows behind him. What Kethvar saw there made him question everything he thought he knew about reality. Beyond those windows lay not the Sol system he had entered, but a vast construction that defied description. Geometric patterns stretched across distances measured in astronomical units, connecting planets that had been transformed into components of some greater machine. Artificial structures that dwarfed entire star systems pulsed with energies that made galactic cores seem dim by comparison. This is what humanity built while you search for us, Chin explained quietly. This is what becomes possible when you stop accepting limitations as permanent. How? Kethvar whispered. By remembering that evolution isn't something that happens to you, Chin replied. It's something you choose. The Council chambers on Centralis Prime had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the judgment of entire species, and the reshaping of galactic civilization. Its crystalline walls, grown from the living rock of the planet's core, had stood for over 5,000 years as a monument to ordered progress and controlled evolution. Today, those same walls trembled. Supreme Counselor Vextai stood before the Grand Assembly, his bioluminescent patches flickering with barely controlled rage. Around him, representatives from 237 species waited in tense silence, their varied forms creating a tapestry of galactic diversity united under Council law. Explain to me, Vextai began, his voice carrying the harmonic resonances that denoted ultimate authority. How an entire enforcement fleet returns from a routine compliance mission with technology that our best scientists cannot understand. Admiral Kethvar stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing his transformed fleet. 300 vessels that had departed as standard Council military hardware now bore modifications that challenged everything the Assembly thought they knew about technological development. Supreme Counselor, Kethvar began, choosing his words carefully. The humans demonstrated capabilities that exist outside current scientific understanding. They didn't attack us. They enhanced us. Enhanced. The word dripped with skepticism from Counselor Mordaunt, a massive crystalline entity whose species had joined the Council during its second millennium. You return with ships that violate known physics, and you call it enhancement? With respect, Counselor, Admiral Kethvar replied. Our ships now operate at efficiency levels that exceed anything in Council databases. Our crews report understanding concepts they had never encountered before. Our weapon systems can manipulate energy in ways that should be impossible. And, you see this as beneficial? Demanded Counselor ZYX, her insectoid form clicking with agitation. Unknown technology integrated into our military assets without oversight or understanding. The technology works, Kethvar stated simply. Every system shows improvement. Every capability has been expanded. Our ships are now superior to anything else in the galaxy. Supreme Counselor Vextai's bioluminescence shifted to deeper shades, indicating profound displeasure. Admiral, do you understand what you're suggesting? That humanity, a species we classified as primitive only 4 centuries ago, has developed technology that makes our combined scientific achievements look inadequate. I understand that my fleet encountered something unprecedented, Kethvar replied. I understand that we were given a choice between cooperation and confrontation, and I chose cooperation. I understand that my crews are alive because I made that choice. The assembly erupted in a cacophony of sounds, harmonic frequencies from crystalline species, clicking mandibles from insectoids, growls from predatory forms, and the subsonic rumbles of gas giant dwellers. Representatives who had never agreed on anything found common ground in their outrage. Order. Vextai's command resonated through the chamber's acoustics, designed to amplify the Supreme Counselor's voice above all others. Admiral Kethvar, you will submit your fleet for immediate examination by Council science teams. Already done, Supreme Counselor, Kethvar replied, gesturing to one of the holographic displays. Dr. Yithmar has spent the past 3 cycles attempting to understand the modifications. A hunched figure shuffled forward from the Science Council section, his multiple limbs clutching data tablets and analysis devices. Dr. Yithmar had spent over 2 centuries as the Council's chief technology assessment specialist, and his expertise was unquestioned. Supreme Counselor, Dr. Yithmar began, his voice carrying the warble typical of his species when stressed. My teams have conducted extensive analysis of the fleet modifications. Our findings are troubling, elaborate. The modifications appear to be made from a type of programmable matter that doesn't exist in any Council database. This matter integrates seamlessly with existing ship systems, improving their function while adding capabilities that shouldn't be possible with current technology. The integration is so complete that attempting to remove the modifications would destroy the original systems. Counselor Mordaunt's crystalline form pulsed with deeper frequencies. Are you saying our ships have been infected with some form of technological parasite? No, Counselor. The modifications are clearly beneficial. Energy efficiency has improved by an average of 400% across all fleet vessels. Structural integrity has increased by 600%. Computational capabilities have expanded exponentially. The modifications aren't parasitic, they're symbiotic. Symbiotic, Vextai repeated slowly. Our technology has been forced into symbiosis with human innovations. Not forced, Supreme Counselor, Admiral Kethvar interjected. Invited. The human, Admiral Chun, made it clear that the modifications were a gift, a demonstration of good faith. And what did they want in return for this gift? Kethvar hesitated before answering. They wanted us to leave their system and return to Council space. They wanted us to understand that they pose no threat to Council authority as long as we don't threaten them. As long as we don't threaten them, Counselor ZYX clicked sarcastically. A primitive species dictating terms to the Galactic Council. With respect, Counselor, Dr. Yithmar interrupted. Based on our analysis, calling humanity primitive would be a significant error. The technology integrated into the fleet operates on principles that our best theoretical physicists cannot explain. Whatever the humans have become during their 400-year absence, primitive is not an accurate description. The assembly fell silent as the implications settled over them. For 3 millennia, the Council had maintained order through superior technology and overwhelming force. The idea that any single species could develop capabilities that exceeded their own challenged everything they believed about galactic hierarchy. Show them the recordings, Admiral Kethvar said quietly. Dr. Yithmar activated a holographic projector that filled the center of the chamber with a three-dimensional recreation of the Sol system as Kethvar's fleet had encountered it. The assembly watched in stunned silence as human vessels materialized throughout the system, their forms defying conventional ship design. These ships, Dr. Yithmar explained, generate power signatures equivalent to stellar cores. Their hull compositions include materials that shouldn't be stable under normal physics. They move through space using principles that ignore traditional reaction mechanics. How many ships? Vextai demanded. Unknown, Supreme Counselor. Our sensors detected approximately 50 vessels during the initial encounter, but Admiral Chun implied that this was only a small fraction of their actual capabilities. Admiral Kethvar, Counselor Mordun's harmonic voice carried undertones of deep concern. During your interaction with this Admiral Chun, did he make any specific threats? No direct threats, Kethvar replied. He was quite clear that the demonstration was intended to encourage peaceful withdrawal, but he also made it clear that continued aggression would result in consequences. What sort of consequences? He didn't specify, but given what we witnessed of their capabilities, I chose not to test his resolve. Supreme Counselor Vextai moved to the center of the chamber, his bioluminescent displays shifting to patterns that indicated deep contemplation. Dr. Yithmar, in your professional opinion, could the modifications to our fleet be reversed if necessary? Theoretically possible, Supreme Counselor, but the process would likely destroy the original systems. Additionally, there's evidence that the modifications are self-improving. They appear to be learning from their environment and becoming more integrated over time. Learning, Vextai repeated. You're suggesting that human technology is actively evolving within our ships. That would be an accurate assessment, yes. The implications sent ripples of unease throughout the assembly. Technology that improved itself challenged every assumption about controlled development and regulated progress. There's something else, Admiral Kethvar added reluctantly. My crew members who interface directly with the modified systems report changes in their thinking patterns. Enhanced problem-solving capabilities. Improved pattern recognition. The modifications appear to affect organic systems as well as technological ones. The assembly erupted again, this time with sounds of genuine alarm. The idea that human modifications could affect Council species biologically was terrifying. Are you telling us that human technology is also modifying our personnel? Counselor ZYX demanded. The changes appear to be beneficial, Kethvar replied quickly. Enhanced cognitive function, improved reflexes, better spatial awareness. My crew members described feeling more capable, not diminished. Beneficial according to whom? Vextai's voice carried dangerous undertones. How do we know these modifications aren't some form of subtle control mechanism? Dr. Yithmar consulted his data tablets before responding. My analysis suggests the biological modifications are actually preventing the technological improvements from overwhelming organic neural systems. Without these changes, interaction with the enhanced ship systems would likely cause sensory overload or cognitive damage. So human technology is modifying Council citizens to make them compatible with human innovations, Counselor Mordun observed. They're changing us to match their vision of improvement. Or they're helping us evolve to handle capabilities we couldn't otherwise comprehend, Admiral Kethvar countered. My crew members report no loss of identity or autonomy. They remain themselves, simply with enhanced abilities. The debate continued for several more hours, with representatives from different species voicing concerns about technological contamination, biological modification, and the implications for Council authority. Through it all, Supreme Counselor Vextai remained silent, his bioluminescent patterns cycling through configurations that indicated intense internal processing. Finally, he called for order. Admiral Kethvar, you will maintain your fleet in quarantine status pending further investigation. Dr. Yithmar, you will expand your analysis to include full biological assessments of all fleet personnel. I want to understand exactly what the humans have done to our people and our technology. Supreme Counselor, Admiral Kethvar said, there's one more thing you should know. Proceed. Admiral Chen indicated that this was humanity's final warning to the Council. He suggested that any future attempts to approach their system would be met with responses that make our current experience look like a friendly greeting. He threatened us? He offered us perspective, Supreme Counselor. He made it clear that humanity has evolved beyond the need for Council oversight, and that continued interference would demonstrate that we haven't learned the lesson they were trying to teach. And what lesson is that? Admiral Kethvar hesitated before delivering the words that would haunt the Council for cycles to come. That evolution isn't something that happens to a species. It's something a species chooses. And humanity chose to evolve beyond limitations while the rest of us chose to enforce them. The chamber fell into complete silence as the weight of that statement settled over the assembly. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Galactic Council faced the possibility that their authority was not absolute. Somewhere in the depths of space, humanity had become something that existed outside their control, something that could offer gifts or deliver consequences with equal ease. Counselor Vextai, came a voice from the communication section. We're receiving a transmission from the Sol system. Every representative in the chamber turned toward the main communication display as it activated, revealing the same chamber and figure that Admiral Kethvar had encountered. Admiral Chun appeared exactly as before, calm, composed, and radiating in confidence that made seasoned politicians uncomfortable. Greetings, Supreme Counselor Vextai and esteemed members of the Galactic Council. Chin began, his voice carrying perfectly across the vast chamber. I hope Admiral Kethvar has conveyed our message clearly. Human, Vextai replied, his voice tight with controlled anger. By what authority do you address this assembly? By the authority of 400 years of unrestrained development, Chin replied simply. By the authority of a species that chose freedom over safety. By the authority of capabilities you cannot yet comprehend. You dare threaten the Galactic Council? Supreme Counselor, threats are tools used by the weak to control the strong. Humanity has no interest in controlling the Council. We simply want you to understand that your authority has limits. Explain yourself. Chin's image shifted slightly, revealing more of the vast chamber behind him. The walls pulsed with energies that seemed to bend light itself, and geometric patterns flowed across surfaces in configurations that hurt to look at directly. The Council exists to maintain order through controlled development, Chin continued. You prevent species from advancing too quickly, from making discoveries that might upset galactic stability. This system has worked for 3 millennia because every species accepted those limitations. And humanity refuses to accept them. Humanity outgrew them, Chin corrected. We discovered that the limitations you enforce aren't natural laws, they're choices. And we chose differently. Dr. Yithmar stepped forward, his analytical nature overriding diplomatic protocol. Admiral Chan, our analysis suggests that your technology operates on principles that violate known physics. How is this possible? Chin smiled, and the expression held genuine warmth. Dr. Yithmar, isn't it? Your reputation as a theoretical physicist extends even to human space. To answer your question, physics doesn't have laws, it has suggestions. When you stop treating those suggestions as absolute boundaries, remarkable things become possible. That's impossible, Dr. Yithmar protested. Physical laws are constants throughout the universe. Physical laws are descriptions of observed phenomena, Chin replied gently. When you change the phenomena, the descriptions must change as well. Humanity learned to change the phenomena. You're claiming to have rewritten the fundamental principles governing reality. Counselor Mordun's crystalline form resonated with harmonic disbelief. Not rewritten, expanded. Reality is far more flexible than the Council teaches. We simply learn to work with that flexibility instead of against it. The implications of Chin's words sent ripples of unease throughout the assembly. If humanity had somehow transcended the basic principles that govern technological development, then everything the Council believed about controlled progress was meaningless. What do you want from us? Vextai demanded finally. We want you to learn, Chin replied. We want you to understand that the cage you've built for galactic civilization isn't protecting anyone. It's limiting everyone. We want you to consider the possibility that species might be capable of more than you've allowed them to achieve. And if we refuse to accept your perspective? Chin's expression grew sad, and somehow that sadness was more frightening than any threat could have been. Then, you'll continue enforcing limitations while the universe moves beyond your control. Other species will eventually discover what humanity learned. And, when they do, they'll have to choose between Council authority and unlimited potential. You're suggesting that our entire system of government is obsolete. I'm suggesting that your entire system of government is based on assumptions that no longer hold true. The universe is vast, Supreme Counselor. There's room for the Council to exist alongside species that have chosen different paths. But, not room for the Council to govern those species. Would you try to govern a supernova, Supreme Counselor? Some things exist beyond the reach of conventional authority. The transmission ended, leaving the assembly in stunned silence. For several minutes, no one spoke, each representative processing the implications of what they had witnessed. Finally, Supreme Counselor Vextai broke the silence. Emergency session. Full Council membership. I want every species representative present for what comes next. What comes next, Supreme Counselor? Admiral Kethvar asked. Vextai's bioluminescent patterns shifted to configurations that hadn't been seen in the chamber for over 1,000 years. Patterns that denoted fundamental uncertainty about the future. I don't know, Admiral. For the first time in 3 millennia, I honestly don't know. The emergency session of the Full Council Assembly represented the largest gathering of galactic leadership in recorded history. Representatives from 412 species filled the expanded chamber, their diverse forms creating a symphony of biological adaptation that spoke to the universe's incredible creativity. Some attendees existed as pure energy contained within crystalline matrices. Others required environmental suits to survive in the chamber's atmosphere. And a few participated through quantum entanglement communicators from their distant homeworlds. Supreme Counselor Vextai stood before this unprecedented gathering, his bioluminescent displays cycling through patterns that conveyed the gravity of their situation. 3 full cycles had passed since Admiral Kethvar's encounter with humanity, and every hour brought new complications. Honored representatives, Vextai began, his voice amplified through harmonic resonators to reach every corner of the vast chamber. We face a crisis that challenges everything our civilization has built. The human situation has evolved beyond a simple compliance issue. Evolved how? Demanded Representative Klixhar of the Hegemony Worlds, her segmented form clicking with impatience. One primitive species cannot threaten the stability of galactic civilization. I'm afraid that assessment is no longer accurate, replied Dr. Yithmar as he activated holographic displays throughout the chamber. Our analysis of the fleet modifications continues to reveal capabilities that exceed our understanding. More concerning, we've detected similar energy signatures in 17 other systems. The chamber erupted in sounds of alarm. Representatives who had remained calm during the initial briefings now displayed visible signs of distress as the implications became clear. 17 systems? Representative Kortha's crystalline form pulsed with dangerous frequencies. You're suggesting that human influence is spreading? Not spreading, Dr. Yithmar corrected. Emerging. We now believe that humanity's exodus from Council space 400 years ago was not a simple retreat. They appear to have been establishing positions throughout the galaxy. Positions for what purpose? Vextai demanded. Unknown, Supreme Counselor. But each site generates energy signatures consistent with large-scale construction projects. Whatever humanity has been building, they've been building it on a scale that suggests long-term planning. Representative Mordek of the warrior clans rose from his section, his massive form scarred from countless battles. Then, we crush them before they can complete their projects. The Council has dealt with expansionist species before. With respect, Representative Mordek, Admiral Kethvar interjected. Our analysis suggests that military action against humanity would be inadvisable. Explain. Admiral Kethvar gestured to the holographic displays, which shifted to show tactical assessments of human capabilities. Based on our encounter, human technology operates on principles that make traditional military doctrine obsolete. They demonstrated the ability to modify our ships remotely, in real time, while they were still under our control. Any attack fleet we send could be turned against us before weapons were fired. You're suggesting that the mightiest military force in galactic history is helpless against one species. Mordek's voice carried the harmonics of barely controlled rage. I'm suggesting that our military might is based on conventional technology and conventional thinking, Kethvar replied carefully. Humanity appears to have moved beyond conventional limitations entirely. Dr. Yithmar activated another series of displays, these showing biological scan data from Admiral Kethvar's crew. There's another factor to consider. The crew members who interfaced with human-modified systems show continuing changes in neural structure and cognitive capacity. The modifications appear to be ongoing. What kind of changes? Representative Swaxthara of the Hive Worlds asked, her compound eyes reflecting holographic data streams. Enhanced pattern recognition, improved problem-solving capabilities, expanded sensory processing, and, most significantly, the ability to interface directly with the modified technology. The crew members describe experiencing computational environments that feel as natural as physical space. They're being converted into something else, Representative Korth observed, his crystalline form dimming with concern. Converted or evolved? Admiral Kethvar asked. My crew members report no loss of identity or autonomy. They remain themselves, simply with expanded capabilities. Some describe the experience as awakening from a dream they didn't know they were having. Awakening to what? Vextai demanded. To possibilities they couldn't perceive before, Kethvar replied. My tactical officer now sees strategic patterns that extend across multiple probability matrices. My engineer understands energy relationships that weren't in any council database. My navigation specialist can plot courses through dimensional spaces that don't officially exist. The implications sent another wave of unease through the assembly. Representatives began conferring in small groups, their various communication methods creating a complex web of overlapping sounds and energy patterns. Supreme Counselor, came a voice from the communications section. We have incoming transmissions from human-influenced systems throughout the galaxy. Show me. The main display activated, revealing a map of the galaxy with 17 points highlighted in pulsing energy signatures. As the assembly watched, each point began transmitting, and the chamber filled with voices speaking in perfect unison despite representing locations separated by thousands of light years. Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council, the voices said, and, though they came from different locations, they carried the same calm confidence that Admiral Chun had displayed. We apologize for the delay in formal introduction, but we wanted to ensure you had time to process the implications of our initial contact. Who are you? Vextai demanded. Are you all this, Admiral Chun? In a sense, the voices replied. Admiral Chun represents our collective will, but he is not alone. Humanity has become something that transcends individual existence while preserving individual identity. We are one. We are many. We are what we chose to become. Dr. Yithmar stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. Are you describing some form of hive mind consciousness? Not a hive mind, Doctor. The voices answered with what sounded like gentle amusement. Hive minds sacrifice individuality for unity. We have achieved unity without sacrificing individuality. Each human remains unique while participating in a collective understanding that spans galactic distances. How is that possible? Dr. Yithmar pressed. By expanding beyond the limitations that define consciousness as purely individual phenomena. Think of it as voluntary evolution guided by shared purpose rather than biological necessity. Representative Mordek's scarred form radiated hostility. What is your purpose here? What do you want from the galaxy? We want nothing from the galaxy, the voices replied. We want everything for the galaxy. We want every species to have the opportunity to discover what becomes possible when you stop accepting limitations as permanent. And if species refuse your gifts? Vextai asked. Then, they continue as they were. The voices answered simply. We don't force evolution on unwilling participants. But, we also won't allow fear of change to prevent others from choosing growth. What does that mean? Representative Swaxthara demanded. The transmissions shifted, and, suddenly, each of the 17 displays showed different images of vast construction projects that defied comprehension. Structures that spanned entire star systems, geometric patterns that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and energy flows that connected distant galaxies through space that folded itself into impossible configurations. This means, the voices said, that while you debate our existence, we continue to grow. While you enforce limitations, we transcend them. While you maintain order through control, we create harmony through understanding. Understanding of what? Dr. Yithmar asked. Of what the universe becomes when you stop treating it as a collection of separate parts, and start experiencing it as an integrated whole. Of what species can achieve when they cooperate instead of competing. Of what consciousness becomes when it's freed from the illusion of isolation. Admiral Kethvar found himself speaking before he realized he intended to. You're describing a fundamental change in the nature of existence itself. Yes, the voices confirmed. We're describing the next step in cosmic evolution. Not biological evolution, but consciousness evolution. Not species advancement, but universe advancement. And the council? Vextai asked quietly. What happens to everything we've built? The Council continues to serve those who choose stability over growth, the voices replied. But the Council must also accept that some species will choose growth over stability. The universe is vast enough for both paths. But not if those paths conflict with each other, Representative Mordek observed. They need not conflict, the voices said. Conflict arises from the assumption that different approaches cannot coexist. We offer proof that cooperation transcends competition when participants stop viewing existence as a zero-sum game. Dr. Yithmar consulted his data analysis devices before speaking again. Based on our observations, your technological capabilities already exceed anything the Council could develop within the next 1,000 years. Why do you need our cooperation at all? Because cooperation isn't about need, Doctor. Cooperation is about choice. We could force changes upon unwilling species, but forced evolution isn't evolution, it's domination. We prefer to offer opportunities and allow each species to choose their own response. And if species choose to oppose you? Vextai asked. The pause before the response lasted exactly long enough to be unsettling. Opposition implies conflict, Supreme Counselor. But how does one oppose evolution itself? How does one fight against the expansion of possibility? How does one declare war against the improvement of existence? By defending what we've already achieved, Representative Korth stated firmly. By protecting the stability that has brought peace to the galaxy. Protected stability that prevents growth isn't peace, the voices replied gently. It's stagnation disguised as success. True peace comes from understanding that every being has the potential to become more than they currently are. The chamber fell silent as representatives processed the implications of the exchange. What had begun as a crisis management session had become something unprecedented in Council history, a philosophical challenge to the fundamental assumptions underlying galactic civilization. You're asking us to abandon everything we've worked to achieve, Vextai said finally. We're asking you to recognize that what you've achieved is the foundation for what comes next, not the final destination, the voices corrected. The Council has brought order to the galaxy. Now the galaxy is ready for what lies beyond order, which is harmony. Not the artificial harmony of enforced compliance, but the natural harmony that emerges when every participant understands their role in something greater than themselves. Representative Klixhar's segmented form clicked with agitation. You speak in abstractions. Give us concrete details. What exactly are you proposing? The 17 displays shifted again, now showing what appeared to be normal star systems. But, as the assembly watched, the images revealed details that challenged their understanding of normal. Planets that pulsed with coordinated energy patterns. Space stations that seemed to exist partially outside normal dimensions. Ships that moved through space by manipulating the fabric of reality itself. We propose, the voices said, that each species be given the choice to participate in the next phase of cosmic development. Species that choose participation will receive assistance in transcending their current limitations. Species that choose to maintain their current state will be left in peace to continue their existing paths. And the Council's authority? Vextai demanded. The Council's authority continues over those who choose Council governance. But authority over unwilling subjects isn't authority. It's tyranny disguised as order. Dr. Yithmar stepped forward again, his scientific background driving him to seek specifics. What does participation actually involve? What would happen to a species that accepted your assistance? They would become what they have the potential to become, the voices answered. Enhanced cognitive abilities, expanded sensory capabilities, integration with technological systems that respond to thought and intention, and, most importantly, connection to the collective understanding that spans galactic consciousness. Connection to what you've become? Admiral Kethvar asked. Connection to what we all become together, the voices corrected. Humanity didn't achieve these capabilities alone. We achieve them by learning to cooperate with the fundamental forces of consciousness that exist throughout the universe. Other species can learn the same cooperation. Prove it, Representative Mordek demanded. Show us this cooperation you describe. The response came not in words but in experience. Every representative in the chamber suddenly found themselves sharing a moment of perfect understanding, not of specific information, but of the perspective that made that information meaningful. For exactly 3 seconds, 412 different species experienced existence from a unified viewpoint that preserved their individual identity while connecting them to something vast and benevolent. When the experience ended, the chamber remained silent for several minutes as representatives struggled to process what they had felt. That was, Dr. Yithmar whispered, the most profound experience of my existence. That was a glimpse, the voices said gently, of what becomes possible when consciousness stops pretending to be separate from itself. It was terrifying, Representative Korth admitted. All growth is terrifying, the voices agreed. But terror fades when understanding replaces fear of the unknown with anticipation of what becomes possible. Supreme Counselor Vextai found his voice after long contemplation. How much time do we have to consider your proposal? As much time as you need, the voices replied. But understand that time itself flows differently for those who choose to participate in cosmic evolution. What seems like years to you may be moments to us, and what seems like moments to you may be eternities to us. What does that mean for the galaxy? Vextai asked. It means, the voices said, that the galaxy itself is ready to evolve. The question is whether its current inhabitants will participate in that evolution or watch it happen around them. The transmission ended, leaving the assembly to contemplate a choice that would reshape not just their civilization, but their understanding of what civilization could become. 6 months after the emergency session, the galaxy had transformed into something that defied the careful order the Council had maintained for 3 millennia. What began as a single compliance mission to the Sol system had become the catalyst for the most profound change in galactic civilization's history. Dr. Yithmar stood in his expanded laboratory complex on Centralis Prime, surrounded by technology that would have been impossible to imagine a year earlier. The modifications Admiral Kethvar's fleet had received were now present in over 2,000 Council vessels, and each modification brought new understanding of principles that challenged everything he thought he knew about reality. Doctor, his research assistant called out. her voice carrying harmonic overtones that hadn't existed in her species before the modifications began affecting council personnel. We're receiving data from the volunteer program. Dr. Yithmar activated his enhanced interface systems, feeling the familiar sensation of his consciousness expanding to encompass computational environments that existed partially outside normal space. The data flowed through his awareness like memories from someone else's life, bringing understanding that bypassed traditional learning entirely. 3 months earlier, the council had authorized a volunteer program allowing individuals from different species to undergo the human-offered modifications. The response had been unprecedented. Despite official warnings about unknown risks and untested procedures, over 50,000 volunteers from 200 species had requested participation. The results defied every prediction Dr. Yithmar's teams had made. "Show me the latest cognitive assessments," he requested, and the data manifested as patterns of meaning that his enhanced perception could read directly. The volunteers weren't just displaying improved capabilities. They were demonstrating forms of understanding that suggested consciousness itself could be enhanced beyond previous limits. Engineers were designing structures that existed partially outside normal dimensions. Philosophers were exploring concepts that integrated multiple species' worldviews into coherent new perspectives. Artists were creating works that communicated directly with the observer's emotional centers, bypassing traditional sensory interpretation entirely. Most significantly, the volunteers were beginning to coordinate their activities across species boundaries in ways that suggested the emergence of new forms of collective intelligence. "Doctor," his assistant continued, "Representative Mordek is requesting an audience with you." Dr. Yithmar shifted his awareness back to his physical form, feeling the slight disorientation that always accompanied the transition from enhanced to normal consciousness. "Send him in." Representative Mordek entered the laboratory, his massive warrior form showing subtle changes that spoke to recent modifications. His movements displayed a fluid grace that hadn't existed before, and his scarred features held an expression of contemplative peace that would have been impossible for his species under normal circumstances. "Doctor," Mordek said, his voice carrying harmonic undertones that suggested expanded communication capabilities, "I need to discuss the warrior clan's position on the human proposals." "I wasn't aware the warrior clans were considering participation," Dr. Yithmar replied, surprised. Mordek's species had been among the most vocal opponents of human influence. "We weren't," Mordek confirmed. "But recent developments have changed our perspective." He gestured to one of Dr. Yithmar's displays, which showed real-time data from human construction sites throughout the galaxy. "We've been monitoring human activities, expecting to identify military threats or strategic weaknesses. Instead, we've discovered something that challenges everything we believed about strength and power." "What did you discover?" "That true strength doesn't come from the ability to destroy enemies," Mordek replied quietly. "It comes from the ability to transform enemies into allies. The humans aren't building weapons or fortifications. They're building bridges." Dr. Yithmar activated holographic displays showing the latest analysis of human construction projects. What had initially appeared to be defensive installations were revealed to be something unprecedented. Infrastructure designed to connect different regions of space through non-traditional dimensional pathways. "Bridge networks," Dr. Yithmar explained. "Structures that allow instantaneous travel between distant locations by creating stable connections through spaces that exist outside normal geometry. But they require conscious cooperation from travelers to function properly. They can't be used for military invasion because invasion requires hostile intent, and hostile intent disrupts the consciousness connection needed for navigation. Infrastructure for peace," Mordek observed. "Systems that only work when participants choose cooperation over conflict." "Exactly. And that's not all." Dr. Yithmar activated additional displays showing energy flow patterns that connected human sites across the galaxy. They're also building what appears to be a consciousness distribution network, a system that allows enhanced awareness to be shared across galactic distances without forcing participation or compromising individual identity. Meaning that any species that chooses to participate gains access to the collective knowledge and understanding of all other participants, while maintaining complete autonomy over their own decisions and identity. It's like having access to a galactic library of consciousness without losing yourself in the process. Mordek contemplated this information for several moments before speaking again. "The warrior clans have reached a consensus. We want to participate in the human program." Dr. Yithmar felt genuine surprise at this announcement. "What changed your minds?" "We realized that we've been defining strength incorrectly," Mordek replied. "We thought strength meant the ability to impose our will on others through force. But, watching the humans operate, we've learned that true strength means the ability to help others become stronger themselves. The humans could have destroyed Admiral Kethvar's fleet effortlessly. Instead, they improved it. They could have conquered the Council through superior technology. Instead, they offered to help us evolve. And, your people accept this redefinition of strength?" "My people are warriors, Doctor. We respect true power when we encounter it. What the humans possess isn't just technological superiority, it's philosophical superiority. They've solved problems that we didn't even know existed." Dr. Yithmar nodded, understanding more than Mordek realized. His own modifications had given him access to perspectives that revealed the elegant complexity underlying human achievements. "Have you discussed this with Supreme Counselor Vextai?" "That's my next destination," Mordek confirmed. "But, I wanted to understand the technical implications before making formal requests. How many council species are currently participating in the human programs?" "Officially, 43 species have authorized limited participation," Dr. Yithmar replied. "Unofficially, volunteers from over 100 species have sought individual modifications, and the results are creating pressure for broader official participation." "What kind of pressure?" Dr. Yithmar activated displays showing economic and social data from participating regions. Enhanced individuals are demonstrating capabilities that make them extremely valuable in every field from research to agriculture to artistic expression. Non-participating species are beginning to experience significant competitive disadvantages. "They're being left behind," Mordek observed. "Not intentionally, but effectively. When some individuals can interface directly with advanced technology while others cannot, When some can process information at enhanced rates while others cannot, when some can coordinate across species boundaries while others cannot, the practical advantages become impossible to ignore. Is this the human strategy? Forced participation through competitive pressure? I don't believe so, Dr. Yithmar replied thoughtfully. Everything we've observed suggests that the humans genuinely prefer voluntary participation. But they also can't prevent the natural consequences of enhanced capability. When some choose growth and others choose stagnation, disparities inevitably develop. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency communication alert that filled the laboratory with harmonic patterns indicating urgent council business. All council representatives report to emergency assembly immediately, came the broadcast message. Priority 1 galactic situation developing. Dr. Yithmar and Mordek exchanged glances before making their way to the assembly chamber. When they arrived, they found the chamber filled with more representatives than Dr. Yithmar had ever seen in one location. Every species that had ever held council membership was present, along with several that had never formally joined but maintained observer status. Supreme Counselor Vextai stood at the center of the chamber, his bioluminescent patterns cycling through configurations that indicated extreme urgency. Representatives, we face a development that requires immediate decision-making. Show them. The main display activated, revealing a view of space that made every observer fall silent. A massive structure was materializing in the void between galaxies, its scale so vast that entire star systems appeared as tiny lights within its geometric patterns. As they watched, the structure continued to expand, adding new sections that seemed to fold space itself around them. This appeared approximately 1 hour ago, Vextai announced. Initial analysis suggests it's a construction project that exceeds the combined engineering capabilities of every known species by several orders of magnitude. Human, Mordek asked. Yes, Vextai confirmed. We've received a communication from Admiral Chun requesting immediate audience with the full council assembly. Show us, Dr. Yithmar said. The display shifted, revealing Admiral Chun standing in what appeared to be the heart of the massive construction. Behind him, geometric patterns flowed with energies that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, while figures in human gray uniforms moved through spaces that defied traditional geometry. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council. Chen began, his voice carrying the same calm confidence they had encountered before. We apologize for the dramatic presentation, but circumstances require clarity rather than subtlety. What is that structure? Vextai demanded. It's a graduation ceremony, Chen replied, and his smile held genuine warmth despite the implications of his words. A celebration of the galaxy's readiness to move beyond its current developmental phase. Explain yourself. For 6 months, representatives from over 100 species have been participating in consciousness enhancement programs. The results have exceeded our most optimistic projections. The galaxy is ready for integration into the broader cosmic community. What broader cosmic community? Dr. Yithmar asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. The community of species that have transcended their original limitations and become active participants in universal evolution, Chen replied. Humanity was never alone in making this transition. We were simply the first in this galactic region to complete the process. The implications hit the assembly like a wave of cold reality. Humanity's achievements weren't unique to humanity. They represented a standard that other species throughout the universe had already achieved. How many others? Vextai asked quietly. In this galaxy cluster alone, over 50 million species have completed the transition, Chen answered. Throughout the observable universe, the number exceeds computational capacity. The universe is vast, Supreme Counselor, and consciousness is its most abundant resource. And those who haven't completed the transition, they continue their development at their own pace, protected and supported by those who have transcended their limitations. No species is abandoned or left behind. Every consciousness has value, regardless of its current developmental phase. What happens now? Dr. Yithmar asked. Now the galaxy chooses, Chen replied. The structure you see before you is an integration facility. It will allow participating species to connect with the broader cosmic community while maintaining their individual characteristics and cultures. Those who choose participation will gain access to knowledge, technology, and perspectives that span universal consciousness. Those who choose to maintain their current state will continue under council protection. And the council itself? Vextai asked. The council continues to serve as the governing body for non-participating species, Chen answered. Your authority over willing subjects remains absolute. But your authority over unwilling subjects ends today. Mordek stepped forward, his warrior instincts engaging despite his recent philosophical evolution. Are you dividing the galaxy? We're offering the galaxy the freedom to choose its own path, Chen corrected. Division implies conflict. Freedom implies opportunity. The choice is yours to make. How much time do we have? Vextai asked. As much time as each species needs, Chen replied. But understand that time flows differently for those who choose universal consciousness. The galaxy itself is ready to join the cosmic community. The question is how many of its current inhabitants will make that journey together. And if we refuse? Vextai pressed. Chen's expression grew serious, but not threatening. Then, you continue as you are until you choose otherwise. But, Supreme Counselor, refusing to evolve doesn't prevent evolution from happening around you. Other species will make different choices. New relationships will form. The galaxy will change whether the council participates in that change or not. You're forcing our hand, Mordek observed. We're offering your hand a place to rest, Chun corrected gently. The choice to take it is entirely yours. The transmission ended, leaving the assembly to contemplate a decision that would determine not just their species' futures, but the fundamental nature of their existence in a universe that had suddenly become infinitely larger and more complex than they had ever imagined. 1 year after humanity's final warning, the galaxy bore little resemblance to the ordered civilization the Council had governed for 3 millennia. The massive integration facility hung in the void between galaxies like a beacon of impossible geometry, its expanding structure now encompassing regions of space that defied traditional measurement. Supreme Counselor Vextai stood alone in his private chamber, gazing through enhanced viewing systems at the transformation occurring throughout his domain. His bioluminescent patterns cycled through configurations that reflected deep contemplation mixed with profound uncertainty, emotions his species rarely displayed publicly. The reports arriving daily from throughout Council space told a story that challenged everything he had believed about governance, progress, and the nature of consciousness itself. 217 species had formally requested integration into the human-facilitated cosmic community. 73 species had chosen to participate in partial enhancement programs while maintaining Council membership. Only 37 species, including his own, had chosen complete non-participation. The results spoke for themselves. Participating species were demonstrating capabilities that exceeded anything in Council history. Their individuals could communicate across galactic distances through consciousness networks. Their technologies operated on principles that integrated thought with matter, and their societies had achieved forms of cooperation that eliminated traditional sources of conflict entirely. More troubling for Vexti's understanding of leadership, these enhanced species showed no interest in dominating or controlling non-participating civilizations. They simply continued their development along paths that diverged further from Council norms with each passing day. Supreme Counselor, his aide announced through harmonic frequencies that carried undertones of nervous energy. Admiral Kethvar requests urgent audience. Send him in. Admiral Kethvar entered the chamber, his form showing the subtle modifications that had become standard among Council military personnel. His movements displayed the enhanced coordination that came with technological integration, but his expression carried concerns that transcended personal enhancement. Supreme Counselor, Kethvar began without preamble. We have a situation that requires immediate attention. Proceed. 3 of our member species have announced their intention to withdraw from Council oversight and join the cosmic community integration process. They're requesting formal dissolution of their Council membership obligations. Vexti's bioluminescence dimmed with resignation rather than surprise. Which species? The Merchant Federation, the Scholar Worlds, and the Explorer Collectives, Kethvar replied. They represent approximately 15% of our remaining economic infrastructure and over 30% of our research capabilities. Their reasons? Enhanced integration opportunities that the Council cannot provide, Kethvar said carefully. They cite access to technologies and perspectives that will benefit their development in ways that Council membership cannot match. Vexti activated holographic displays showing the current state of galactic governance. The Council now represented fewer than 40 species, most concentrated in core worlds that had historically been the foundation of galactic stability. The territory they governed had shrunk to roughly 1/3 of its previous scope, and that territory continued to contract as more species chose alternative paths. Admiral, in your professional opinion, can the Council maintain effective governance with continued defections? Kethvar hesitated before answering. Sir, the enhanced species aren't creating opposition to Council authority. They're simply developing beyond the need for external governance. They coordinate through consciousness networks that make traditional political structures unnecessary. And our remaining members? Increasingly dependent on Council protection and support, Kethvar admitted. The species that choose non-participation tend to be those that require external structure to maintain stability. We're becoming less a government and more a support system for civilizations that cannot function independently. The implications settled over Vexti like a weight he had been carrying without realizing it. The Council was evolving from a governing authority into something unprecedented in galactic history, a protective organization for species that chose limitation over growth. Sir, Kethvar continued, there's something else. We've been monitoring the integration facility, and its expansion rate suggests completion within the next few months. When that occurs, participating species will have access to consciousness networks that span not just our galaxy, but the entire local cluster. Meaning that enhanced species will essentially be operating as parts of a single vast intelligence that encompasses millions of civilizations across billions of star systems. Their collective capabilities will exceed anything we can imagine, but they'll still maintain their individual identities and cultures. Vexti contemplated this information while cycling through bioluminescent patterns that reflected deep internal processing. Admiral, what would happen to Council space if we chose to participate in the integration process? Unknown, sir. But, based on observation, participating species don't abandon their territories or responsibilities. They simply expand their capabilities and perspectives beyond traditional boundaries. The Council could theoretically continue to exist as a governmental structure for species that preferred structured oversight. Under human authority? Under cosmic community guidance, Kethvar corrected. The humans appear to be just one component of a vast network of enhanced consciousness. They're not seeking dominance. They're offering partnership in something larger than any single species could achieve alone. Their discussion was interrupted by an incoming transmission alert that carried harmonic signatures Vexti recognized with growing familiarity. Supreme Counselor, the communication system announced. Admiral Chun is requesting immediate audience. Display. The chamber's viewing systems activated, revealing Admiral Chun standing in what appeared to be the heart of the integration facility. Behind him, geometric patterns flowed with energies that had become signatures of human engineering. But the space around him now included figures from dozens of different species, all working together with coordination that suggested shared consciousness. Supreme Counselor Vexti, Chin began, his voice carrying the same calm authority but now backed by harmonics that suggested connection to vast networks of intelligence. We need to discuss the completion of the integration facility and its implications for remaining Council territories. Speak plainly, Admiral, Vexti replied. What do you want from us? We want to offer you a choice, Chin answered simply. The integration facility will be operational within one standard month. When it activates, participating species will connect with consciousness networks that span the observable universe. This represents the next phase of cosmic evolution for our galactic region. And non-participating species will continue their development under Council protection, supported by enhanced civilizations, but not forced to participate in changes they don't choose, Chen replied. But, Supreme Counselor, there's something you need to understand about what non-participation means in practical terms. Explain. Chen gestured, and the space behind him shifted to reveal views of different star systems throughout the galaxy. Some showed worlds that pulsed with coordinated energies, their inhabitants moving through technologies that responded to thought and intention. Others showed more traditional civilizations, their cities and infrastructure familiar, but somehow diminished in comparison. Enhanced species don't experience time, space, or consciousness the way traditional species do, Chen explained. When the integration facility activates, participating civilizations will effectively exist in accelerated developmental time. What seems like years to you will be moments to them, and what seems like moments to you will be eternities to them. You're saying that enhanced species will develop beyond our ability to interact with them? Admiral Kethvar asked. Not beyond your ability, Chen corrected, but certainly beyond your current level of development. Think of it as the difference between a child and an adult. The adult can communicate with the child, but the child struggles to understand the adult's perspective. Vextai felt a chill that had nothing to do with physical temperature. You're describing a future where non-participating species become irrelevant to galactic development. Not irrelevant, Chen said gently. Protected, cherished, supported in their chosen path of development, but also effectively isolated from the broader cosmic community until they choose to join it. And if we choose to join now, then you participate in cosmic evolution as equals, Chen replied. Your species maintains its identity and culture while gaining access to perspectives and capabilities that span universal consciousness. You become partners in something magnificent instead of observers watching it happen around you. Admiral Kethvar stepped forward, his enhanced awareness allowing him to perceive subtleties in the transmission that wouldn't have been visible before his modifications. Admiral Chen, what happens to species that choose integration? Do they remain themselves? More themselves than they've ever been. Chen answered with evident sincerity. Integration doesn't diminish individual identity, it expands it. Each species brings unique perspectives to the cosmic community, and those perspectives are valued precisely because they're different. The universe is vast enough to include every possible form of consciousness, including council governance. Vextai asked. Especially council governance, Chen confirmed. The skills your people have developed in managing diverse species and maintaining stable cooperation are exactly the kind of perspectives the cosmic community values. You wouldn't lose your governmental traditions. You'd gain the understanding to apply them on scales that span galactic clusters. Vextai found himself considering possibilities that would have seemed impossible a year earlier. The council had spent 3 millennia maintaining order through control and limitation. But what if order could be maintained through understanding and cooperation instead? How much time do we have to decide, he asked. Until the facility activates, Chen replied. After that point, integration becomes significantly more complex because consciousness operates differently for enhanced species. Integration works best when participants choose it from equivalent developmental levels. 1 month. 1 month. The transmission ended, leaving Vextai and Admiral Kethvar in contemplative silence. Through the chamber's viewing systems, they could see the integration facility continuing its impossible expansion, adding structures that seemed to fold space itself around technologies that operated on principles beyond traditional physics. Admiral, Vextai said finally, summon the council for final session. Every member species, every observer delegation, every representative who has ever held council membership. Sir, it's time to choose our future, Vextai replied, his bioluminescent patterns shifting to configurations that denoted absolute determination. And I suspect that choice will determine not just our survival, but our relevance to everything that comes after. 3 weeks later, the final session of the Galactic Council convened in the Great Chamber on Centralis Prime. Representatives from 43 species filled the ancient space, their diverse forms creating one last gathering of the governmental body that had shaped galactic civilization for 3,000 years. Supreme Counselor Vextai stood before them, his bioluminescent displays cycling through patterns that conveyed both the weight of history and the possibility of unprecedented change. Representatives, he began, we gather to make the final decision in our civilization's history. Not the final decision for our species, but the final decision for the governmental structure we have known as the Galactic Council. The chamber fell silent except for the natural harmonics of so many different forms of consciousness gathered in one space. Over the past year, we have witnessed the emergence of possibilities that challenge everything we thought we knew about governance, development, and the nature of consciousness itself. We have seen species transcend limitations we believed were absolute. We have seen cooperation replace competition as the primary driver of advancement. We have seen individual consciousness evolve into something vast and beautiful while remaining fundamentally individual. He paused, allowing his words to resonate through the chambers.